Have you ever listened to someone speak English so naturally that it felt effortless and wondered, will I ever sound like that? You're not alone. Millions of learners dream the same dream, but most give up before they see how close they really are. Here on English Story Avenue, we don't just learn English, we live it through stories. Every story you'll hear will inspire you, teach you, and take you one step closer to the fluent, confident English speaker inside you. Because learning a language isn't about rules. It's about feeling, growth, and believing that your voice matters. Welcome to English Story Avenue, where every story brings your English to life. Have you ever stood by the ocean and listened, not just heard, but listened to the sound of the waves? They rise, crash, and return again, never stopping, never apologizing for their mistakes, never worrying if the next wave will be bigger or smaller. That rhythm, that endless courage of the ocean is what learning English feels like. It's not a single wave of success. It's the constant motion of trying, falling, rising, and trying again. There was once a young man named Amir who dreamed of speaking English fluently. He believed that if he could speak well, his world would expand, new opportunities, new friends, maybe even a new version of himself. But every time he tried to speak, his voice trembled like a small boat lost in a big storm. Words slipped away. Confidence sank. He wondered, can I ever speak like them? One evening, Amir sat near the seaside with an old tattered book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. He read a line that caught his heart. You are not the voice in your head, you are the awareness behind it. That night, something shifted inside him. He realized he didn't have to silence his fear. He only had to keep speaking through it. The next day, Amir started his small ritual. He spoke to himself while brushing his teeth. He described his breakfast in English. He repeated phrases from podcasts, whispered lines from The Alchemist, and even practiced conversations he'd never had. People laughed sometimes, but Amir had already made peace with being misunderstood. Days turned into weeks. His words began to flow, not perfectly, but courageously. Each mistake was a ripple. Each attempt was a wave. When he couldn't find a word, he created one. When people corrected him, he thanked them instead of feeling small. He was learning that English wasn't just a language. It was a reflection of movement, of energy, of belief. One day, at a community event, a foreign visitor asked for help. Without hesitation, Amir stepped forward and spoke. His words weren't flawless, but they were full of meaning, and they reached the listener's heart. For the first time, Amir felt what fluency truly meant, not perfect grammar, but clear connection. That night, as he walked home, the sound of the waves echoed his journey. He smiled, realizing that language learning isn't about being the best. It's about never stopping your rhythm. Like the ocean, you rise and fall, but you always move forward. If you ever feel stuck in your English journey, remember this. Waves don't apologize for crashing. They just keep returning stronger. Your voice will rise the same way. Speak with courage, even when the world is silent. Let your words be waves, because somewhere in that endless motion, you will find your fluency, your rhythm, and your freedom. Confidence grows when you practice even in uncertain moments. But what does that really mean? It means you don't wait for the perfect time, the perfect sentence, or the perfect audience to begin. You start exactly where you are, with whatever words you have. Confidence is not something that suddenly appears when you feel ready. It is something that grows every time you step forward, despite feeling unsure. Think of a child learning to walk. The child doesn't wait to master balance before taking a step. They wobble, fall, and rise again. And with each small, imperfect step, their confidence grows, not because they stopped falling, but because they kept moving. The same rule applies to learning English. When you speak, even when your accent feels heavy, when your grammar trembles, when others seem better than you, that's when confidence begins to take root. Amir understood this truth slowly. At first, he waited for a time when he would feel confident enough to speak English. That time never came. He realized that confidence was not waiting for him at the end of the road. It was hidden in the act of walking itself. Every time he said a new word aloud, even when no one listened, something inside him strengthened. There were moments when he doubted himself, when his tongue stumbled, when people corrected him, when silence followed his sentences. But instead of retreating, he decided to practice in those very moments of discomfort. He spoke when he was nervous. He practiced when he was uncertain. And soon, what once felt frightening began to feel normal. Confidence, Amir discovered, isn't built in comfort. It's born in motion. You grow it like a muscle, by using it, stretching it, testing it. You can't think your way into confidence. You must speak your way into it. Each word you dare to say, each moment you choose courage over fear, becomes a quiet victory that shapes who you are becoming. So the next time you hesitate, remember this. Your uncertainty is not a signal to stop. It's an invitation to begin. Speak through the trembling, because every uncertain word you speak is a seed of confidence that will soon bloom into fluency. Mistakes are signs of learning, not failure. Yet many learners treat them like walls instead of doors. Every time you speak and make a mistake, you're not proving weakness. You're proving effort, courage, and progress. Think about it. A baby doesn't cry in shame when it mispronounces a word. It tries again. But as we grow older, fear takes the place of curiosity, and we start hiding from the very mistakes that could help us grow. Amir used to feel this fear deeply. Every time he made an error, he felt the sting of embarrassment. Once, in front of his classmates, he said, "I am interesting in English," instead of, "I am interested in English," and laughter followed. For days, he kept replaying that moment in his head. But one evening, while reading Mindset by Carol Dweck, he came across a simple idea, that people with a growth mindset see mistakes as feedback, not failure. That single idea shifted his world. He realized that every mistake carried a message, every wrong sentence showed him where to improve, and every correction was a small lesson disguised as discomfort. So instead of avoiding mistakes, he started chasing them. He would speak more, write more, and even ask his friends to correct him directly. The more he was corrected, the more confident he became. At first it hurt. Pride resisted. But slowly, something beautiful happened. His fear began to fade. He saw progress where he once saw pain. The words that once felt heavy began to flow naturally because he had trained himself to see mistakes as milestones. When you make mistakes, it means you're moving. It means you're stretching your comfort zone, building new connections in your mind, and daring to grow. The only real mistake is silence, the choice not to try. So when your tongue slips, when your grammar fails, when people correct you, don't shrink. Smile. Because that moment of error is not the end of your journey. It's proof that you're already on the path. Every fluent speaker you admire once stood where you are now, surrounded by mistakes that later became their stepping stones. Every learner has a unique rhythm. Don't compare yourself to others. This truth sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest lessons to accept. When we see others speaking fluently, our minds start whispering, "They're better, they're faster, I'll never reach that level." But learning a language isn't a race, it's a rhythm, and every person moves to a different beat. Amir once joined an online English group where everyone seemed more confident than him. Some spoke with beautiful accents, others used words he had never heard before. He began to doubt himself again, thinking maybe he wasn't meant for English. But then his mentor told him something that changed his view completely. A flower doesn't bloom by comparing itself to the one beside it. It blooms when it's ready. Those words stayed in his heart. He realized that everyone's journey has a different pace, shaped by their environment, effort, and experiences. Some people have been surrounded by English since childhood, while others, like him, were just beginning to build that environment from scratch. Comparing his beginning to someone else's middle made no sense. From that day on, Amir decided to focus on his rhythm. He spoke slower, but clearer. He practiced at night when the world was quiet. He didn't rush. He began to celebrate his own progress. The first time he understood a full English podcast. The first time he spoke with a foreigner without freezing. The first time he watched a movie without subtitles. Each step, no matter how small, was his personal victory. The ocean doesn't rush its waves, the sun doesn't hurry its rising, and the tree doesn't force its growth. They all follow their natural rhythm, and that's exactly how learning works. Your journey may take longer, but that doesn't make it lesser. The only person you need to compete with is the one you were yesterday. So when you see others speaking smoothly, let it inspire you, not defeat you. Their rhythm is theirs, yours is your own. Stay loyal to your pace, trust your process, and remember, true mastery doesn't come from speed, it comes from steady, patient rhythm. Small daily efforts create big waves of progress over time. It's a truth that hides in plain sight, yet most people overlook it because they're searching for something dramatic, a shortcut, a miracle, a moment when everything suddenly becomes easy. But growth doesn't appear in one grand moment. It appears quietly, in the simple act of showing up every day. Amir used to believe that fluency came from long study sessions or special language courses. He thought he needed the perfect plan before he could truly improve. But one day, while reading Atomic Habits by James Clear, he learned a life-changing idea. Tiny changes, remarkable results. That line stayed in his mind like an echo, so he decided to test it. He made a new rule for himself, just 15 minutes of English every day, no matter what. Some days he listened to a short podcast while walking. Some days he described his day aloud while looking in the mirror. Other days he read a single page from The Old Man and the Sea. It didn't matter what he did, as long as he did something. At first, the progress was invisible. His pronunciation still stumbled, his grammar still felt messy. But after a few weeks, he noticed subtle shifts. He understood conversations faster, sentences came more easily, and the fear of speaking began to fade. It wasn't magic, it was momentum. Each small effort was like a drop of water falling into a still pond, creating ripples that reached further than he could see. Over time, those ripples turned into waves, waves of confidence, understanding, and fluency. He realized that consistency, not intensity, was the true secret to mastery. We often underestimate what a small effort can do when repeated daily. 1 minute of practice, one sentence spoken aloud, one new word remembered, it all adds up. Just like the ocean is made of countless tiny drops, your English journey is built from the quiet, steady moments you dedicate to it. So even on the days you feel tired or unmotivated, do something small. Whisper a phrase, watch a clip, write a short line, because every small action plants a seed, and with time, those seeds grow into a forest of fluency. Progress doesn't shout, it whispers. But if you keep listening, you'll realize it's been moving all along. Speaking English is more about courage than perfection. Many people wait until their speech is flawless before they dare to speak, but that moment never truly arrives. Perfection is a moving target. It keeps shifting the closer you get to it. Courage, on the other hand, is always available. It's the quiet decision to open your mouth even when your heart is pounding, to speak your truth even when your words come out imperfectly. Amir learned this lesson the hard way. For years, he studied English in silence. He knew the grammar, memorized vocabulary, watched countless videos, but when it came time to speak, fear froze his voice. He worried about pronunciation, about saying something wrong, about being laughed at. His knowledge was like a treasure locked inside him, waiting for courage to turn the key. One afternoon, while reading Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, he came across a simple truth. Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. Amir realized that speaking wasn't about sounding perfect. It was about showing up. So, he made a promise to himself. He would speak, no matter how broken his sentences were. He began small. At a cafe, he ordered in English. At the bus stop, he greeted a tourist. On his phone, he recorded himself speaking and listened to his own mistakes, not with judgment, but with curiosity. And slowly, something remarkable happened. The fear didn't disappear overnight, but each time he spoke, it lost a little of its power. Courage, Amir discovered, was like a muscle. The more he used it, the stronger it became. People started to respond, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. His voice carried sincerity, and that mattered more than flawless grammar. Fluency doesn't start with mastery, it starts with bravery. Every confident speaker you admire once spoke with hesitation. What separated them from those who gave up wasn't perfection, it was persistence. So when your voice shakes, when words stumble out of order, don't apologize for being human. That trembling is the sound of growth. Speak anyway. Every brave word builds a bridge toward fluency, and one day you'll look back and realize that your courage was the most perfect thing about your journey. Environment and mindset shape how fast you grow. You can have all the books, the best teachers, and even the strongest desire, but if your environment doesn't support your growth, or if your mindset holds you back, progress becomes a struggle. Just as a plant needs both sunlight and fertile soil, an English learner needs both a healthy environment and a hopeful mind. Amir once studied English in a place where no one spoke it. Every time he tried, people laughed or teased him. Slowly, he began to hide his interest. He practiced in silence, afraid of being judged. His environment was draining his motivation. But one day, he realized that if he couldn't change the people around him, he could change the world within him. He began by reshaping his environment, one small step at a time. He switched his phone and apps to English. He watched motivational videos and English talk shows instead of his usual entertainment. He filled his room with English books. You Can Win by Shiv Khera, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. His surroundings began to whisper in English, encouraging him even when no one else did. But environment alone wasn't enough. His mindset had to change too. Amir learned to replace thoughts like, "This is too hard," with, "This is making me stronger." Instead of saying, "I can't speak fluently," he began saying, "I'm becoming more fluent every day." These small mental shifts changed how he felt and how he learned. And slowly, the results showed. Words came easier, confidence grew, and learning felt natural again. It wasn't magic, it was the power of alignment. His mind and environment now moved in the same direction. The truth is, your surroundings are silent teachers. If you fill your day with English, reading it, hearing it, seeing it, your brain starts to treat it like home. And if you pair that with a mindset of growth and patience, progress becomes inevitable. So, if your current environment doesn't support your learning, build a new one. Create a space, physical or mental, where English is not a task but a lifestyle. Because when your world starts speaking the language of growth, your heart will soon follow. Listening deeply helps you speak more naturally. Most learners focus only on speaking, believing that fluency is about how much they say. But true fluency is born from how much you absorb. Listening is the secret bridge between silence and confident speech. When you listen carefully, you don't just learn words, you learn rhythm, tone, and the invisible music of language. Amir didn't understand this at first. He wanted to speak fast, to sound fluent, to impress others, but his sentences often came out stiff, like words from a textbook, not a human heart. Then, one evening, he was listening to a podcast by an author reading The Alchemist, and something unexpected happened. The way the narrator spoke, the calm pauses, the rise and fall of emotion moved him more than the words themselves. For the first time, Amir realized that English wasn't just a collection of sentences, it was a living voice. From that day, he changed how he learned. He began to listen, not just to understand, but to feel. He listened to audiobooks, songs, interviews, even children's stories. He focused on how the words flowed, how speakers connected sounds, how emotions shaped meaning. He noticed that the most powerful speakers didn't rush, they breathed between thoughts, they let silence carry weight. As Amir listened more, something subtle began to happen. His own speech started to change. Words flowed more naturally, pronunciation improved, and even his confidence grew. It was as if his ears were teaching his tongue. He realized that listening wasn't a passive act, it was deep training for the mind and voice. When you listen with full attention, you're not just learning words, you're learning how to think in English. You begin to predict patterns, to sense emotions, to connect ideas without translating. Listening plants fluency deep inside you, quietly, like roots growing underground before the flower blooms. So if you ever feel stuck in speaking, step back and listen. Listen to voices that inspire you, to stories that move you, to conversations that teach you. Don't just hear, absorb. Because every minute you listen with presence, your mind is preparing your mouth for the moment you finally speak. And when you do, your words will sound not rehearsed, but real. Inspiration can come from the simplest daily experiences. We often wait for something big to motivate us, a speech, a book, a success story, but sometimes the most powerful sparks come from the quiet moments we overlook. A small encounter, a passing sentence, or even a failure can awaken something inside us that pushes us forward. Amir discovered this truth on an ordinary morning. He was sitting at a small roadside tea stall, sipping his cup slowly, when he overheard two children practicing English with laughter and excitement. Their sentences were full of mistakes, but their joy was real. They weren't afraid. They were learning through play, through curiosity, through the freedom of not caring who listened. Watching them, Amir smiled, and something inside him lit up. He realized that learning didn't have to be heavy or serious all the time. It could be light, alive, and joyful. The world around him was full of lessons if only he paid attention. The shop signs written in English, the song lyrics playing on the radio, the motivational quote on a passing truck, all of them were opportunities to learn. Later that week, he found inspiration in unexpected places. An old man speaking broken English but doing it proudly, a friend reading You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza and sharing his thoughts confidently, a street performer singing in English with passion and mistakes alike. Every one of them reminded Amir that perfection wasn't the goal, expression was. Inspiration, he realized, isn't something you wait for. It's something you notice. It hides in the rhythm of everyday life, in the courage of ordinary people, in the small victories we often ignore. Once you open your eyes to it, the world becomes your classroom. So if you ever feel unmotivated, don't search far. Look around you. Listen to how people express themselves, how they try, how they grow. Even your own reflection can inspire you, because every effort you make, no matter how small, is proof that you're still moving forward. And sometimes that's all the inspiration you need. True fluency is a reflection of persistence and inner belief. It's not simply about mastering grammar or collecting words, it's about continuing even when progress feels invisible and believing in yourself when no one else does. Fluency begins in the mind long before it appears in the mouth. Amir's journey taught him that the most powerful tool in language learning wasn't a book, a class, or even a teacher. It was belief. There were times when he felt stuck, moments when he thought he had reached his limit. He would speak, stumble, and feel as if nothing was improving. But then he remembered something he had read in The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol. Repetition of belief builds conviction, and conviction turns into reality. That idea reshaped his approach. He began to tell himself every morning, I am becoming fluent. He didn't say, I hope to be fluent someday. He spoke it as truth, and as he repeated it, something changed, not just in his speech, but in his spirit. The more he believed, the more persistent he became. When his motivation faded, belief kept him practicing. When his confidence wavered, belief pushed him to speak again. There were no miracles, no shortcuts, just steady, faithful effort powered by conviction. And over time, Amir realized that fluency isn't a finish line. It's a reflection of all the times you refused to quit. It's the result of showing up on the days when your energy is low, when your progress feels invisible, and when your voice trembles but you speak anyway. Belief fuels persistence, and persistence transforms ability. The two walk hand in hand. Every fluent speaker you admire once faced the same doubts, the same walls, but they kept moving because they trusted the process. So, if you ever doubt yourself, remember this. The words will come, the rhythm will build, the understanding will grow, but only if you keep believing. Fluency is not just in your tongue, it's in your heart. When your belief becomes stronger than your fear, your voice will rise effortlessly. Keep the faith, keep the rhythm, and your English will one day flow like a river that never stops moving, calm, clear, and unstoppable.